Welcome to Engage on the Go. I'm Judy Maggio. A priority for Leadership Austin is to increase civic engagement by convening even more people in critical community conversations. We know not everyone's available for our monthly Engage Breakfast, so we're bringing these panel discussions to you through this Engage on the Go series. Our hope is to encourage a thoughtful dialogue about a community issue at a time and place that works for you. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, University Federal Credit Union, who's helping us bring these series of discussions to where we live, work, and play.
Hello, my name is Tony Boudet. I'm CEO of University Federal Credit Union. We're proud to partner with Leadership Austin as presenting sponsor of Engage on the Go. We hope this series sparks thoughtful, respectful dialogues at a time and place that work best for you.
CodeNEXT is the City of Austin's initiative to rewrite our outdated and complicated land development code. The Land Development Code sets requirements for what, where, and how much can be built in Austin. Leadership Austin engaged 3 panelists who represent services and systems that are impacted by CodeNEXT. Hear what they have to say on these code changes and how they will impact life in our changing community. What do we need to know about CodeNEXT as it relates to housing, education, and healthcare?
Well, CodeNEXT is really crucial because it is, it's Paul mentioned Imagine Austin. That's our vision for the community. And what we know is that our community doubles in size about every 20 years. We've done that historically since the 1800s. We are going to continue to do that. But in order to be, as Paul mentioned, a sustainable community, and I don't think of that just in an environmental aspect. I mean, I think of it from an economic aspect, from a sociological aspect. I mean, how are we going to sustain our growth? And in order to do that, we need to find places for people to live across the housing spectrum. So that includes from very low income to first-time home ownership. And that's what Housing Works really focuses on, is housing across the spectrum. In 2014, the city did a comprehensive housing market study. And one thing we found, our consultants found, was we do a fabulous job with producing rental, multifamily housing, kind of those big apartment complexes you see around town. We do a fabulous job producing single-family homes. Those serve very distinct markets, but what about everything in between, what we call kind of the missing middle? And by that, I mean duplexes, triplexes, accessory dwelling units, smaller apartment complexes. That can provide some affordability. It provides a different housing product. It also serves different, it can serve different demographics. So I think about kids who are coming back from college, who are starting out in the workforce. I think about seniors who are retiring. We need to provide a diversity of housing products, and I think CodeNEXT is one way. If we can incentivize these various types of housing products, that's one way that CodeNEXT can make us more successful. I will also say that I think it's incredibly important. Our tagline is all kinds of homes in all parts of town for all kinds of people. And I think it's important for us to have a diversity of housing product in all parts of town. And so when I think of Imagine Austin, it's built on this vision of centers and corridors spread throughout the city. So those centers have jobs, they have services, they have housing. And if we want to solve our transportation problems, and we want to solve our affordability problems, we have to have people living, working, and playing in proximity in the same areas of town, and then we can connect those through corridors.
Week and a half ago, we approved our newest facility master plan, and with that, we had to recognize, we asked our consultants and our administration to really look at objective data to see where we have students and where we're over-enrolled and where we're under-enrolled. And I think that CodeNEXT will give the community an opportunity to really show what their values are around our schools. A lot of folks say that our schools are segregated. I think they're segregated by where people choose to live right now. So we have a really great opportunity, as Mandy said, to put new family-friendly housing in around our schools. We can tell you right now, I have 16 under-enrolled elementary schools. I can tell you where they are. Right now, a cluster of them is over in East Austin, just north of the river. And what I've noticed going in there recently for residential housing isn't family friendly. It's expensive. It's they're smaller. You know, we just have to decide whether we want to put in perhaps some different styles to help fill up our schools, and we hope that the community will want to help us to do that. Generally, we also have really low enrollment down South Central, right south of 290. So what can we do there to fill up our schools? We've been taking, the school district has formed a nice relationship with the Austin Board of Realtors, and we've been taking realtors into those communities where we have under-enrolled schools specifically and showing them those are good schools. Our programming and our curriculum is fabulous at every single one of our schools, and we just need to get families to live there if they can afford it. And I do hope that we'll talk about that in CodeNEXT, that the community will say, yes, let's go ahead and create some incentives that's what we want to put there. Put them close enough to those schools that we're going to fill them up. Otherwise, our alternative, we also have a fiduciary responsibility to our taxpayers. And they're really hard conversations to have. But we can't keep many under-enrolled schools open right now under today's funding system. The legislature just doesn't give us the luxury of doing that.
I want to make sure that when you leave here that you're challenged. You're challenged by our own unconscious bias about the way we look at CodeNEXT and have a conversation about our values as a community. What are our values that we want to have in the conversation? I think Imagine Austin Plan has been great about trying to get that community input and the values and the CodeNEXT itself. I know we're not going to get into the details, but I really appreciate Paul's passion for this issue and for challenging us to not get into the weeds around it. And there's a great book called Blind Spot, Hidden Biases of Good People that I would recommend to you around that. The reason I bring up unconscious bias is because we had to challenge our own biases in healthcare around all this stuff. One of the things that we did is we've heard this presentation by Dr. Stephen Wolf of the Virginia Commonwealth University, and he loves to talk about it, and it's just gotten into my brain. Did you know that your zip code matters more than your genetic code? And that policies drive healthcare disparities. So as a healthcare system, we have to not just think outside the walls, which everybody kind of quote unquote talks about, but we have to look upstream and challenge our ways of looking at these policies in different ways. And for us too, around this kind of raising awareness is the realization or re-realization that housing, education, health lead to economic opportunity. And that's really an important piece to this, because for us, it not only raises our awareness of the suburbanization of the poor, which we've seen, which is, frankly, some of the strategies of building a hospital in Williamson and Hayes, which we've done as well, and expanding in those areas. But that suburbanization of the poor also has been paralleled with Seton Healthcare Family being here since 1902 and seeing the doubling of size in the population, also seeing the increase in charity care and throughout the entire community as well, and the increase in that. In fact, last year alone, it was like, I think, $247 million in charity care. The last 10 years has been $2 billion. So our engagement in CodeNEXT in this conversation is really to challenge us to make sure that these values are put in there, because the policies we decide on are going to have an impact for our children, our grandchildren, and those beyond in ways that we need to make sure that we understand, especially around healthcare disparities from our perspective.
How do we have conversations from a value-driven point of view?
I think when I look at Imagine Austin, I see our focus on density around centers and corridors. And to me, that's crucial for a couple of different reasons. Embedded in Imagine Austin is this idea of complete communities, and that is living, working, and playing where in proximity. I mean, this whole idea of complete communities is really crucial, and complete communities are also founded on the idea that we have multiple different income levels, and multiple people, a diversity of people, a diversity of household types. We have seniors, we have millennials, we have families, all in proximity of one another. And I think that when I look at Imagine Austin, it's really crucial to have that density focused on the centers and corridors for a couple of reasons. And the biggest one is it helps with our transportation issues. We cannot have functioning public transportation unless we have appropriate density.
I'm hopeful that developers and the city are also surveying people, or to try to understand what it is, what a family would move into. And, I think in other parts of the country, they're very open-minded, and they're willing to live in high-rises, or they're willing to live tight. I think Mueller has stepped us in that direction. Another place where we're going to have, more students. But if you don't ask, we can't tell the market what it wants. We need to ask the buyers what they want.
Call to action.
Just basically get informed and get involved. And if you go to the city's website, austintexas.gov/CodeNEXT, you'll see you can sign up for email newsletter. You can see all of the different public engagement that is going to occur. There's going to be engagement by city council district. Staff is actually holding office hours, so you can go in just as an individual and say, my property, the draft map shows my property went from SF3 to T3, what the heck does this mean? And get one-on-one support for that and get your questions answered. This is going to be an iterative process.
So I'd encourage you to think about whatever your passion is and see the interrelatedness to the affordable housing issue or to the housing issue.
We hope you found this edition of Engage on the Go helpful. Greater Austin is a diverse, rapidly growing region, facing issues that will certainly shape this place we call home. Please enjoy your conversation, and thank you for caring enough to share your perspectives with each other.